Hi and welcome to Bounce Forward with me, Tiff Hall. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which I'm recording this podcast, the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. I pay my respects to elders past and present. Now today I'd like to talk about one of the biggest fitness myths. Lifting weights will make you bulk up. This is something that comes up all the time in my TXO community. A fear many women carry. They think they'll look at a 7-kilo dumbbell and just chunk up, or see a squat rack and bulk up. It's not true. I guarantee you won't bulk up doing strength training. There are so many benefits. I'm going to tell you all about it. And you have to trust me because it's coming from someone who was once a gladiator. I hung out with the strongest man in Australia. I was training with him every day, getting tips and hacks and how can I please put on some muscle. I was desperate to bulk up. And it didn't happen overnight. It took me months of specific training and specific eating stacked on top of years and years of training in order to put on just a tiny little bit of lean muscle mass. I was the smallest, lightest gladiator in history. I wanted so badly to have the bolder shoulders and the thick forearms. But the truth was, I couldn't even see over the first step of the pyramid. I couldn't even get down the gauntlet. And I just felt so bad about this. But in the end, it all worked out because they put me up in the air and I was playing all the aerial games. Hang tough, that was my jam if you remember. It was so much fun. Pendulum, loved it. And my point is, after 30 years of training, I still hadn't put on big bulk as a gladiator. So you won't either. One home workout's not going to do it. One gym session's not going to do it. It's a lot of consistent training and doing a certain way of training to put on muscle mass. I've seen different body parts come in and out of fashion as a trainer. It used to be all about protruding hip bones and really low-waisted jeans. But now it's about Beyonce booties and really strong J-Lo backs. They're the main requests I get as a trainer. When I started personal training, social media didn't exist. Imagine that. No gym selfies. Didn't exist. Skinny was in. It was all about clients wanting to do lots of cardio and drop fat fast. Now, though, we've entered our strong era, which I love. Women are wanting some lean muscle definition, and that's great. Now we have social media, we have more diverse representations of bodies, we've got strong bodies, and that's so fantastic. But it can be so confusing as to how you get there. How do you build a strong body? Despite the different kind of bodies we see on social media, there is still the myth surrounding lifting weights. The myth that lifting weights will make you bulky. Now, take the big booty that is still trending, for example. You'll see an influencer put on her booty bands and do 15 reps, 3 sets, and tell you to do that every day for 3 weeks and you'll build a booty, right? But she is lying to you. To grow muscle, you need to train consistently for over 3 months, and you have to focus on progressive overload. You have to challenge yourself. It's not something you can do in a 15-second TikTok. It really does make me angry when I see photos of influencers with lots of muscle mass saying they got their abs in 10 days or their strong glutes in 3 weeks. It's just not true, especially when they're telling you to do high reps of light weights. No. The truth is, they've probably been training each muscle group twice a week, tracking their macros, which is really hard to do, to get that specific look. Don't be fooled. They've been training for years and years to achieve those results. It's completely misleading. So of course you're going to think, if I lift weights, I'm going to pop a muscle. And you may become disappointed when this doesn't happen for you in 10 days or you don't see the results in 3 weeks. I don't want you feeling this way. Strength training by itself doesn't automatically make you bulky or overly muscular. The extent to which strength training affects your muscle size and appearance depends on various factors, including genetics, training variables, and your nutrition. Mainly, strength training doesn't lead to bulkiness in women because of our hormonal differences. Men generally have high levels of testosterone, a hormone that contributes to muscle growth. This hormone difference makes it more challenging for women to gain significant muscle mass through strength training alone. But if you want to gain muscle, there are a few things you can do to help. 1, there's a specific type of training that you want to do to get those muscular results. And that is doing moderate repetitions of 12 reps, 8 to 12 rep range of heavier weights. And it's much more effective than doing light weights and high reps, which is more focused on endurance and toning. It's not just about building the muscle either. It's also about seeing the muscle. You need to be at a lower body fat percentage to have muscle definition, to reveal the muscle underneath the body fat. So it's a lot of correct nutrition and knowing when to bulk and when to cut. To build substantial muscle mass, you need a calorie surplus, meaning you need to consume more calories than you burn. Without a calorie surplus, it is unlikely that you experience excessive muscle growth solely from strength training, right? And most of us don't really want to overeat and overtrain to put on big, bulky muscles, right? So if you're just training in that moderate rep range, 8 to 12 reps with heavier weights, eating well, you will gradually put on lean muscle mass. Each individual has a unique genetic makeup that influences their body composition and how they respond to strength training. We have to face that. Some people naturally will put on more muscle, others will find it so much more challenging. But that's okay. You can put on muscle no matter what kind of body type you are. It's just about how dedicated you are and how much you stick to the program. Developing significant muscle mass requires consistent and dedicated training. For a long period of time, I'm sorry to say it. Simply engaging in strength training a few times a week without an intense focus on muscle hypertrophy is unlikely going to get you any results. You really have to think about the muscle growing programs, okay? And stick to a program. You can't be ad hoc with this kind of training. So, you got to eat right, train the right way, genetics play a role. That is if you want to put on muscle size. But strength training isn't just about putting on lean muscle mass. There are many benefits to strength training that go beyond muscle growth, and I can't wait to talk you through them. The first is about fat factories. I like to think of your muscles as fat factories. Muscles are more metabolically active than fat tissue. It takes a lot of energy to sustain them. The more muscle you have, the bigger your fat factories. On average, muscle tissue burns approximately 6 to 10 calories per kilogram per day at rest, doing nothing, like just sitting here doing nothing. That's great. Whilst fat tissue burns only around 2 to 3 calories per kilogram per day. This means that having more lean muscle mass can slightly increase your basal metabolic rate, your BMR, which is the number of calories your body needs to burn just to breathe and blink and do all the automatic stuff sitting around. So having more lean muscle mass can absolutely increase your metabolic rate, which is awesome. Some bad news. As we age, our estrogen declines, and so does our ability to build muscle. And so we start storing fat much more easily. Boo! Such bad news. But lifting weights helps to correct this. Yay! You can recomposition your body. Recomp is absolutely the aim of the game, to build more lean muscle mass and less body fat. Now, I'm all about this benefit. I have bad knees and I recently had a knee operation. Lifting heavy weights is great for your joints because it signals to your tendons to increase their tension, which equals more stability, and this can also improve your posture as you age. Such a win-win. But how heavy should you lift? It's a great question. Let's talk about endurance versus strength. I used to pump the weights in my 30s, high reps of light weights. I really wanted the cardio and the endurance because my job at the time was to film fitness videos, one after another, hundreds of them. And I would do this day in, day out. But that's not going to serve me now that I'm nearing 40. A lot of my clients I've had want to lift high reps of light weights to avoid getting bulky. This will improve endurance, sure, but not your strength. You're losing up to 3 to 8% of muscle mass every decade after the age of 40. Incredible. So after the age of 40, it is really important to lift as heavy as you can. The other approach is to lift 10 to 12 rep range. This is good because you will hit hypertrophy, the process of creating tiny tears in your muscle that repair and grow bigger, which is so cool. I just love that. So you'll increase your lean body mass, which is awesome, but you really need to be lifting heavy to send a message to your brain that you need to deal with the stress and recruit as many muscle fibers as possible. This will produce explosive power, and that's what we're all about. The other approach is to lift in the 10 to 12 rep range. How to lift? Now this has taken ages to sink in for me, because I was a little bit like endurance and strength and a bit all over the place and not focused when I wanted to build muscle on just doing a muscle building program, because then I would cut into cardio and light reps and all over the place with my training. You really do need to have a specific goal and then select the training needs for that goal. So if you want improved endurance, how long your muscles can work for until they reach fatigue, go light with your weights so that you can do more reps without compromising on form. The rep set should be between 10 and 16 reps, 2 to 3 sets. For increased strength, how much load you can lift, go moderately heavy, a challenging weight that allows you to do more sets but fewer reps per set. So I'd say between 6 to 10 reps and aim between 3 to 6 sets. For hypertrophy, which is the muscle tissue breakdown and then growth, go heavy, your max weight that allows you to do more sets but fewer reps per set. Think 3 to 6 reps, 2 or fewer sets. Obviously, you can't go from 0 to hero. You need to build up, and that's really important. There may be days when you go more endurance, 10 to 16 rep range, but try to work in those heavier days. The endurance will build a really good foundation. You want to focus on compound lifts like chest presses, deadlifts, overhead presses, and your squats. The aim is to load lots of muscles at once, so you're not stressing out any single muscle or joint. I will get some expert instruction for this if you can. Start with endurance, 10 to 16 reps to build the base and the foundation. Then after 6 to 8 weeks, you can go up with the weight and pull the reps down so you're lifting, say, 6 sets of 6 reps. And don't forget, a really good warm-up. So I hope these tips have helped you realize that strength training won't make you bulky. It's a toxic fitness myth we should all bar from now on. Putting on lean muscle mass takes months, years even. It's hard and it takes a lot of work and dedication. But if that's your goal, go get them. If it's not, then there are so many more ways and benefits to strength training. Make friends with the dumbbells and barbells. They can really change your life, especially as you start aging. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Bounce Forward. Don't forget to rate, review, and share it with a friend. Happy days.